So Bobby Lashley apparently has been removed from WWE's internal roster. So has MVP and Tamina. Now, this is all via at hashtag PWN, at WrestleOps, however you want to break it down. But there's obviously maybe some truth to this, like MVP's been tweeting out, very cryptic, vague things, Tamina. So we cover all of these folk on this show all the time, right? Like we're big. We just covered recently, MVP sort of has a beef with Triple H and compared his stuff to the Bloodline and, was sort of going at taking shots at Triple H. You know what I mean? And I said, there might be heat on with them from back in when they were like on the wrestling together too, like the politicking aspect of Triple H back when, let's say, CM Punk had heat with him, or other people have had heat with Triple H and the Clique just in general, right? And so MVP could have some like unspoken, stuff. And we have tweets, we have him liking and responding to comments, that I didn't even look at, live reacting with you guys, okay? Because I love you, and that's the best way, the most fun way to do it for me. So I just saw a post with all of his tweets or his like Instagram comments and whatnot. And he sort of maybe does have a beef with Triple H that's been underlying. We covered it a little bit on the show previously. Tamina, we talk about her all the time. I'm like, we need her and Nia Jax and Naomi in the Bloodline female faction. A lot of people are like, don't do that. That's, that's too much.
You Mark!
Phil, calm down. But we also have covered how she's like semi-retired, right? Like they could call her anytime they want. She's probably got an open door policy at the PC and anything WWE, but she's sort of been done, and she's had some mileage on her. I mean, over the years, right? She came at that weird era too, where it was sort of like divas transitioning into real women's wrestlers, So yeah, I love Tamina. But then Bobby Lashley, this is the big one where everyone's like, if he's been removed from the roster, who knows what that means, right? Is there heat there? Apparently he is on the internal roster. This has been corrected, so I'm going to give these guys a liar, because apparently, according to some people, Lashley's just still on the injured roster, like the injured list, and internally. And when we're talking internally, guys, this is all just Mark Gaga nonsense, BS. It's just speculation. We don't actually know. It's just anyone could say, I could go, yeah, I heard from the internal roster. But there is like rumblings on X, right, of people saying, no, he's on the injured list. They offered him a new contract. He declined it, but he didn't hard decline WWE. But he's just like not expected to re-sign. These are the rumors and innuendo, right? We don't fully know. And so these three, I mean, goddamn. MVP, Lashley, and of course, you have Shelton Benjamin, who's a free agent. And then Cedric Alexander, I believe they're finally starting to do something with him and Ashanti the Adonis, like pushing forward that tag team in NXT, which will be great because Triple H, we'll talk about Alfred Konua talked about it on the last show. Like leaning into the black culture is a very, very wise thing to do, especially in this wrestling space right now. Like if nothing, NXT's proven that, and so using Ashanti the Adonis and Cedric Alexander, and I believe on the last NXT he was hitting on like Jakara Jackson. That dynamic, what's the joke Alfred Konua makes? Love in NXT or African NXT or whatever, right? So listen to that last podcast. Always got to plug my own and put it over, because if I don't, who's gonna, right? Because he breaks it down way better than I can. But I see big things for that tag team. Like they need something. That Nathan Frazier Axiom stuff in NXT ain't working. I would way rather see Ashanti and Cedric. I don't know if you're not familiar with them, get familiar. Just tremendous workers. When it comes to this faction, though, we have accusations like Hurt Business. Apparently, Dave Meltzer is going to throw himself out there and say, oh, they want to rejoin, they want to reform in AEW. He's already been saying that. So we're going to talk about that. And also there's other people melting down who are like, Triple H is racist. So it's crazy just touchy. But your boy Phil's gonna talk about. I'm gonna do my best. We're gonna have fun with the damn thing. We're gonna dive into it. So MVP, he's got his tweets here. MVP might have been right about Triple H. Here's a response. So let's just read stuff. King Craig, these are all on Instagram. MVP, the 305 MVP. Shout him out. I'm a huge fan of his since like I was little, so if he has heat with Triple H, that could stem from like political business when they were like wrestling together, as I mentioned previously, like that could totally be the case. And I could totally see that. What would have been the era or what would have been that timeline, like 09, 08, in there, right? I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, where MVP was like prominent on the roster, and I'm sure Triple H was starting to move his way into the office, and it was an era when DX were kind of doing their thing, and there could be heat there. Like, we really don't fully know. But here is MVP's. I'm going to read them to you. So this guy says, can't believe Vince this up. I assume it was him. MVP responds, Triple H had the power to fix it. And this is in response to like Bloodline versus Hurt Business that never happened. Now, I agree. That shit should have happened. I think they should have resurrected Hurt Business and just brought the Street Profits into it. Because why not, bring BFAB into it, I guess, if she's not going to be with Hit Row or whatever. But ultimately, and this is true. This isn't a lie, dude. Triple H had the power to fix all of this. He had the power to make this happen. But am I somebody sitting here groveling? Like, no, because if the Bloodline didn't happen the way it's happened, then we wouldn't be where we're at with the Bloodline. Do you all understand what I'm saying? So I'm okay with that it didn't happen, but yeah, people go, it's a fumble, but like, is it though, dude? We can't just sit here and call it a fumble, right? It's just more of like something that I would say is like a missed opportunity. It could have made a lot of money, but how do you stretch out the Bloodline another year? Who knows? I don't know. I can't write it as good as they're writing it, but I'm sure we could all fantasy Mark book ways, but it's just something that didn't happen, so we can't be upset about that. But MVP gets asked, can we get the Hurt Business back? Triple H said no, so he's just blatantly saying, Triple H is saying nah. Should have kept y'all together. Damn you, Vince. Triple H had the power to fix it. He chose not to. Go figure. Damn. The Triple H era is emasculating black men. I'm really hating it. And then MVP says, you see it. Damn. So, hey man, I'm not going to be like, you're wrong about that. I don't see it. I don't see it whatsoever. Vince, I feel like Vince, I mean, how do we even compare? And we don't know, like, I guess MVP is revealing like, no, there was a shift in power when it still could have happened. But maybe he just saw it differently. We don't know. But MVP, dude, you have to take it from, I always say, from the horse's mouth. Like, he was there and he's willing to put his name on this and put it out there. I'm not going to sit here and say Triple H is racist. A lot of people are doing that. I don't throw that around lightly. But damn, MVP's agreeing with something like emasculating black men, which is like, damn, I can see why he would have been on the released list. Just for that alone, I mean, that's bad publicity. And you know what I mean? So this guy says, as much as I would love to see it, the Hurt Business back on TV, the only way I'd want it back is if Shelton Benjamin is back in the fold. Ain't the Hurt Business without him. Once he's back, let's run it back. That guy said back about 15 times. MVP says that's the only way. The current regime doesn't want it either. I agree. Hurt Business is way like Lashley. I've said it on the show a billion times. He started floundering when they just sort of stuck him with the Street. I'm not feeling that faction really. I'm not whatsoever. It just feels like thrown together pieces of, like MVP should be the manager in the suit, managing Lashley the Killer and the young tag team, and BFAB the young woman on the rise, and she can valet as well. I'm all down with that, but like MVP should almost be in that role. And why not have Cedric? Why not have Ashanti? Why not have the Street? Like merge all those groups into one if that's what they were trying to do, and then have it be like the Uber NWO Hurt Business. A lot of people might be like, Phil, you're a mark. Phil S. marks to you, but like I am a New Japan mark, and those factions like work, dude. For like in MMA, there's camps where there's like might be 5, 6, 7 dudes, different weight classes, who come from a camp and like they don't have to cross paths. And when they do, Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez, which is a perfect example, they just switch divisions or whatever. So that idea does work. It is more, I would say, sports based too. Like you have teams in sports, you have people. It works in NXT. Everyone's got a group and a faction in NXT. A couple pods ago, we were talking about, is it too many factions? I don't know. I kind of like it. Attitude Era, everyone was sort of grouped off. I'm not saying group everyone off, but in a WCW, people were grouped off and it was hot. And then Goldberg came in and there was a Sting and they got white hot or a DDP because they didn't really align with a group. They were like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. And that made them bigger, so it can be done, and I like it. So, and then there's people who will say, "Oh, Phil just trying to stick all the black dudes together," but we've covered that on the show too. Like, Alfred said it better than I can again to allude to the last pod, but it's what sets you rep. It doesn't matter. Everything's tribalistic, so you know what I mean. It's just going to work that way naturally. And that's why it works, dude, because it feels natural. Like the Hurt Business is a natural faction. The Bloodline is a natural faction. The LWO feels natural. Well, the LWO feels a little more thrown together. I won't lie about that. But Legado as well, which sort of spurned off. I guess that's like LWO too. Yeah, the wolf pack of is Legado. You could look at it that way. But either way, man, this is just, I could see why Triple H would be like, well, I don't want someone talking about me this way who I work with. I could see that. And it seems like MVP is a little more like, nah, dude, Vince actually had my back in this regard. The IWC brains are tripwiring. Everyone's got different opinions and stances on all of this. And I don't know, but let's move along here. What noise do we have to make for Hurt Business to happen again? None. It's over. The power that be made that clear. You got to talk to Hunter, Nick, and William and get the band back together. We did. He said, no, somebody like you doesn't get to be a world champion. It's your job is to make people like me laugh. Triple H, you meant that. SMH. And then he said 100. So that's a quote from the feud with Booker T, where he's like, people like you don't get to be champion. And all you guys remember that? Damn. And he's agreeing, dude. So, Triple H can say, dude, I was playing a character and things were edgier and crazier back then. And if someone were to say, well, that's not good enough, like that doesn't mean whatever, I'd feel totally justified in that. I'm indigenous myself, so I won't ever say that I have an experience, perhaps racial or maybe underlying, maybe you feel that type of way. I'll never discredit someone's perspective like that, as much as people will get mad and go, oh, race baited, even though I do not do that. But it's a valid conversation to be had, dude. It really is. It's not like he's making this up. Is MVP making this up? Is a grown ass man, lived a insane life. You know what I mean? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, is probably the most humble of human being, who just actually probably feels a way and is valid in that. And I would love to hear his perspective fleshed out, not in like responses to comments. I'd love to hear him like talk about this in depth and really explain, or a little shoot interview, brother. Get Sean Oliver on the phone. And just like spill the beans. But obviously he doesn't want to like burn a bridge, but obviously maybe he's like it. And then so yeah, like and here's the thing, MVP I'm sure could just walk in AEW, get a job. We all know that, he absolutely could do that anytime. Most people could. If you've been in WWE, you can walk in AEW and get a job. Now, I'm not saying that's why he's doing that, but like wrestling's hot again. So there's a more incentive for people to go, yeah, I'm not going to tolerate this or that. Even though everything seems peachy keen on the surface of WWE, there are tons of valid criticisms about WWE. And same thing with TNA, which we're going to get into about Slammiversary. Nobody puts TNA over more than I do. But, I do have some criticisms of Slammiversary we're going to get into in a bit. But speaking of TNA, I tweeted out, Hurt Business in TNA greater than Hurt Business in AEW, irrefutably. Now, MVP has some past history in TNA. Of course, Bobby Lashley has a ton of history in TNA. Shelton Benjamin, I think, would fit in TNA better than an AEW. And I think they'd welcome him and treat him better. Cedric Alexander, does he ask for his release or does he keep doing what he's doing? Who knows? And yeah, and then we have haters saying, like, there's nothing MVP can bring to the table. Like, that's utterly asinine. I do not agree with that. And that is stupid. And for that, it gets a dummy.
Dummy, yeah.
But yeah, so people are just upset, melting down. Now they're hating on MVP. Come on, WWE drones, do better, man. Do better than that. Don't start hating on MVP because he's going to say what he feels, man, and feels and reels are two different things, but we don't know the reels. This is a hearsay, he say, she say type situation. Like, we don't know. Dave Meltzer's already out there spinning the narrative, and this Dave Meltzer's dumb moment of the week. Spinning the narrative that Bobby Lashley and MVP are reportedly on their way out of WWE and looking to reunite with Benjamin to reform the Hurt Business in AEW. So who told him this? You know what I'm saying? Who told Dave this? That's what I don't understand. And so Dave goes, I know that there is, talk of, especially, trying to get into AEW. It's, like one of, those things where technically nobody can talk to them because I don't believe either's contract has expired. So then how do you know that they're trying to go to AEW to reunite the Hurt Business, Dave, if no one can talk to them because their contracts aren't?
Liar! Tell us what you know, you goddamn liar!
I don't believe either's contract has expired, but their contracts are going to expire, and they are at this point, as things stand right now. WWE is under the assumption that they are gone and that they are going to try to revamp the Hurt Business. Bro, okay, maybe they are, but how the do you know if no one can talk to them the sentence before because their contracts aren't up, Dave? And then you're just saying they're going to be up and WWE think they're going to go do the Hurt Bit, or are you just saying that? I don't know. Maybe they're talking to him. Who knows? Maybe that is the word around town. It would make sense to do it. Why not? But Tony wouldn't book that properly. He'd just give them the trios titles and then they'd be on Collision, doing dick. So do it. But I mean, hey, the money he'd dish out for these three, astronomical, and I would not blame them for going and taking that. Speaking of working or not, Dave's brain is might or might not be here, but he goes, I don't think it's a done deal or anything like that, but it's something that is alive. But as of right now, Bobby Lashley and MVP are both going to be gone from WWE when their contracts expires, which is relatively soon. And what if they're not, though, Dave? What if they end up re-signing, dog? Or what if they just leave and go to TNA for like 7-8 months and do the Hurt Business there, like Naomi did when she went there and then came back? That could absolutely happen as well. Or maybe MVP and Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are hearing this and going, Phil, shut the fuck up, you idiot. This is right. And you're completely wrong and off about this. And yeah, we're going to AEW and we're reviving the Hurt Business. We're going to shove it down everyone's throats. And if that's the case, I applaud that. And I want that because that's what will make wrestling great is, people out there. I know a lot of people are like, oh no, WWE is where it's at. And it is. But I mean, dude, if we saw the Monday Night Wars again, if we saw AEW bounce back somehow in the Hurt Business, we're a big part of that. And there was a debate who's better, the Bloodline or the Hurt Business, and the ratings are close. That'd be awesome. DXNWO, But I don't know. I try and find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbows, I guess. Is that a good one? I don't know if that's a good one transition, but while on this topic, some people get very negative. At WWF Counselor, he's very much on the Triple H is just a blatant racist. And I just screen grabbed this. And I wasn't doing this I'd tag Pro Wrestling Counselor. We've disagreed on air. We've disagreed on X. It's not, I just screen grabbed it to get the whole thing. And I knew he'd see it. So I was not like the response. I responded right underneath here. I screen grabbed this too. He's not like a bad dude whatsoever. And shout you out. He just has a different perspective than I do, but I just had to give my perspective and I screen grabbed it to get the whole, so I didn't just quote tweet him and say like his aspect of it. Maybe I'm completely in the wrong, but I don't fully agree with Gareth just being like, you're stupid, common sense. It's like, well, are you calling MVP stupid because he feels the type of way and he would know better than any of us, and he put his name on that, and he would know better than any of us, dude. He's worked directly with the guy as a talent and as like his boss, so I'm not going to call it MVP. So I don't mean to be a fence sitter, but I'm not siding with you guys. Just the discussion. It's like, come on. I don't know. To call MVP stupid, if that's what Gareth, I feel like that's what Gareth was sort of doing, leaning into that. And then Counselor to just say, this is where we completely disagree. And then I was just a little disheartened, like, damn, we're really having this conversation. And then dude quote tweeted me and said, no, it isn't. If you can post a pod segment about what Tony does with Alfred Konuwa, then you can deep down on what Hunter is doing, which is just as bad. I just disagree with you, buddy. You know what I mean? I disagree. Like, yeah, no. What me and Alfred talked about was like leaning into Black culture and how it works in wrestling. And is Triple H not doing that? Like, what about Jade and Bianca and Naomi? Like, they put them together as like the big three or the power three. The three, however they were alluding to themselves there, and that's still a big thing actually in his picture right here in Pro Wrestling Counselor's profile picture. And then I had people responding to me going like, Counselor's just doing for clicks. I don't know about all that, guys. I'm not gonna like trash Counselor, but we disagreed on this. He's welcome to come on here too and like chat me up. Oh, come on now, Counselor. Why don't you just chat me up? We can be friends. A healthy hurt business is healthy for everybody in the wrestling business. Counselor, oh, come on now. Counselor, that's not very fair, Eric. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel it's a conversation for another day, But I just don't like throwing around like racist and stuff so blatantly. If MVP wants to come here and be like, Phil, you're dumbest, and this is actually right, and Triple H is actually this, then assist my foot in my mouth, because I'll own it. But I will also, I think Triple H has where I just don't know. I mean, you could point to the Nation of Domination stuff and all of that, but then you have to make the argument like, well, isn't that Vince's call too? And MVP sort of defending Vince. So I feel like it's more personable and nuanced, and it's not a blanket. This guy's are just a full-blown KKK member. I think there could be personal stuff there brewing with MVP and Triple H as well, from back when Triple H and Shawn Michaels were probably politicking and that sort of thing as a talent. You know what I mean? So again, guys, touchy stuff. Hopefully I did a good job of breaking it down the best I could. I'm not calling Dave completely wrong on this, but I just needed a reason to play a flute, you know what I mean? But I just think he is lying about, no one can talk to them because their contracts aren't up, but here's what's going to happen when their contracts are up. That's like, so who's stooging then? And if you're not willing to say, then just
shut up, bitch.
So yeah.